There's something happening in your home right now that most people never stop to think about. And once you see it, I mean really see it, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. You might think your dog is just happy-go-lucky, maybe a little goofy, maybe obsessed with squeaky toys and stolen socks. But underneath all of that, there's something ancient running, something hardwired, something that has kept humans safe for tens of thousands of years. Your dog has a job, and they take it seriously, even when they're napping on your feet or begging for a bite of your sandwich. Today, we're going to break down 7 specific things your dog does that aren't just cute habits. They're quiet, deliberate acts of protection. By the time we're done, you're going to look at your dog and realize they've been on duty this entire time. And hey, if you love understanding what's actually going on inside that loyal, fuzzy brain of yours, hit subscribe. I promise you, this channel will change how you see your dog forever. Let's get into it. Sign 01. They always know when someone's about to knock. Pay close attention the next time someone comes to your door. Not after they knock. Before. Your dog is already moving. Ears up. Head tilted. Maybe a low rumble in their chest. And you're standing there thinking, how did they know? Here's what's actually happening. Dogs process sound at frequencies roughly 4 times more sensitive than ours. But it's not just the sound of a footstep or a car in the driveway. Research on canine auditory processing shows that dogs can distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar footstep patterns, the weight, the rhythm, the cadence, all before a person is even visible. In other words, your dog isn't reacting to the knock. They're reacting to the approach. They clocked the stranger long before you had any idea. Now, here's where the protection piece comes in. When your dog stations themselves near the door, sometimes just sitting, sometimes placing a paw on the threshold, they're not being dramatic. They're positioning. They're putting their body between you and the unknown before you even have a chance to be aware there is an unknown. Think about that. In those few seconds between someone's coming and the doorbell rings, your dog has already gone through a full threat assessment, and they made a choice. I'm going to be ready. That's not a quirk. That's a guardian instinct. If your dog does this, if they alert you before visitors arrive, drop a comment below and tell me, do they actually get up and move to the door, or do they stay with you? Because what they choose to protect first says a lot about how they've ranked their priorities. And sign number 2 is going to make that even clearer. Sign 02. They sleep closest to the side, facing the door. Most people think where their dog sleeps is random. Maybe they just landed somewhere comfortable. Maybe they like the temperature near the window. Maybe they're just being a dog. But it's not random. It almost never is. Here's what behavioral researchers have found. Dogs in multi-person or single-person households tend to orient their sleeping position relative to perceived entry points. Doorways, windows, hallways. In plain language, your dog has mentally mapped your home, identified the most likely spots where something could enter, and placed themselves accordingly. If you have a partner or kids in the house, watch this closely. Your dog may actually rotate positions depending on who is where. One night, they're at the foot of your bed facing the hall. Another night, they're wedged near the bedroom door. The next morning, they've moved to the living room couch nearest the front entrance. That's not restlessness. That's coverage. Now, this doesn't mean your dog is lying awake in full guard mode all night. Dogs cycle through sleep stages, and they can shift from deep rest to alert awareness in seconds. Scientists studying canine sleep behavior have noted that dogs in domestic settings maintain what's sometimes called a split attention state. Part of their brain stays available to environmental changes even during rest. So when your dog presses against the foot of the bed or curls up right in front of the bedroom door, they may have chosen that exact spot for a reason that has nothing to do with comfort. They're guarding the entrance to wherever you are. And here's the thing that really gets me. Nobody told them to do this. They just do it. Because in their mind, the night is when you're most vulnerable. And that's when they feel most needed. The next behavior happens not at night, but the moment you step outside. And it reveals something about the way your dog sees the world around you both. Sign 03. They scan the environment before you enter a space. Watch your dog the next time you come home. Or the next time you open a door to a room, a backyard, or step out onto a porch. Your dog goes first. Not because they're eager, not just because they're excited. There's something more calculated going on. Dogs have what animal behaviorists call an investigative approach reflex. When entering a new or transitional space, they instinctively sweep the area using all three of their primary senses: scent, sound, and sight. That sniffing frenzy in the backyard every morning? That's a perimeter sweep. Your dog is reading the overnight scent log. Who walked past the fence? What animal was in the yard? Has anything changed? They're downloading information you don't have access to. And here's what makes it a protection behavior. Once they've cleared the space, they typically check back to you, either with eye contact, a return trot, or by settling into a relaxed posture. They're giving you the all-clear signal. It's subtle, but it's intentional. Dogs who are doing this for protection reasons tend to move through the space methodically. They don't beeline to a toy or a favorite spot first. They move along the edges, pausing at corners, sniffing at thresholds. That edge-first movement is the same pattern seen in trained security animals. Your dog learned it on their own. The reason this matters is that it means your dog is not reacting to your environment. They're preparing it for you. They're walking into uncertainty so you don't have to. That's not a small thing. That is the definition of a protector. But what happens when something actually feels wrong? When your dog senses a threat that isn't gone yet? That's where the next sign comes in. And it's one of the most misunderstood behaviors in the entire dog world. Sign 04. The low growl. That has nothing to do with aggression. If you've ever been sitting peacefully and your dog suddenly lets out a slow, quiet, low growl, no barking, no lunging, just that deep rumble, and you looked around and saw absolutely nothing, you probably thought, "What on earth is going on?" The answer might surprise you. A low, sustained growl directed at something specific, a corner of the room, a wall, outside a window, is one of the most sophisticated warning systems in canine behavior. It means your dog has detected something you haven't, and they're telling you about it without causing panic. Think about that for a second. Your dog made a choice. A full bark would startle you. A whine would worry you. But a low growl says, "I see something. I'm watching it. Don't panic, but pay attention." Studies in canine communication have found that dogs vary their vocalizations based on context, and that the low alert growl is specifically associated with ambiguous threats, situations where a dog isn't sure yet whether something requires action. They're keeping the line of communication open while they gather more information. This is completely different from fear-based growling or resource guarding. A protection growl tends to be steady, directional, and ends on its own when the perceived stimulus passes. The dog's body is usually still. They're not posturing, not escalating. They're monitoring. What you should never do is punish this growl. It's the most polite warning your dog knows how to give. If you suppress it, you lose a critical communication channel, and you lose the early warning system your dog has been offering you for free. Instead, acknowledge it. What is it? Good dog. Then look. Take it seriously. Because 9 times out of 10, when you investigate, you'll find something. A car idling outside, someone walking past the fence, a sound in the attic. Your dog wasn't imagining things. They were doing their job. And speaking of doing their job, the next sign is one that nobody ever labels as protection behavior. But once you understand what's really happening, it will completely change how you see it. Sign 05. They physically position themselves between you and strangers. Here's a moment you've definitely experienced, but probably didn't fully register in the moment. You're standing somewhere, maybe on a walk, maybe at the park, maybe in front of your own house, and someone you don't know very well approaches. Maybe they walk up fast. Maybe they reach out to touch you or invade your personal space. And before you've even processed the interaction, your dog is just there, right in front of you, or beside you, leaning into your leg. Nobody called them. Nobody told them to move. They just repositioned. This behavior has a name in animal behavior research: interposition. It's the act of placing oneself physically between a perceived threat and the person being protected. What makes it remarkable is that dogs do it without being trained to. It's instinctive. The interposition behavior tells you something important about how your dog has classified that person as an unknown variable in your space. Not necessarily dangerous, but unverified, and until your dog has made their own assessment, they're going to maintain that position. Smaller dogs do this just as often as large breeds, which surprises a lot of people. A Chihuahua or a Dachshund placing themselves between their owner and a stranger isn't a dog that thinks they can win a fight. It's a dog that's saying, "To get to them, you go through me first." The intent is the same regardless of size. The lean is a version of this too. When your dog presses their whole body weight against your leg during an uncertain moment, they're not looking for comfort, or at least not only that. They're grounding you and signaling simultaneously. "I'm right here. I know what's happening. I've got this with you." Here's what I want you to pay attention to going forward. Notice the moments your dog shifts position in social situations, because they're not shifting randomly. They're tracking the person in the environment they trust least, and they're always making sure you're behind them. Which brings us to something that happens not in the moment, but long after everyone has gone home. Sign 06. They check on you during quiet moments, without being called. You're in another room. You haven't moved in a while. You haven't made a sound. And suddenly, your dog appears in the doorway. They look at you. Maybe they take a step closer. Maybe they just watch for a moment. Then, apparently satisfied with what they found, they turn around and go back to wherever they were. What just happened? Your dog ran a welfare check on you. This isn't widely talked about, but it's one of the most consistent protective behaviors domestic dogs display. When there's been an extended period of unusual stillness, no movement, no sound, no activity from you, your dog's protective instinct activates. Something in their brain says, "Go verify." Research into canine emotional attunement shows that dogs are continuously monitoring changes in their owner's behavioral patterns. Sound, movement, scent, even breathing rate. And when those patterns go quiet, when you've been still longer than usual, it registers as a deviation. You know what that mirrors? It mirrors the sentinel behavior of pack animals throughout history. When one member goes quiet, when the expected presence becomes suddenly absent or unusually still, a trusted member goes to investigate, just in case. Your dog showing up to check on you when you're reading quietly, or sitting in the dark, or just being still for longer than usual. That's the closest thing to, "Are you okay?" that they know how to say. And if you've ever been sick in bed, or going through a hard time emotionally, and noticed that your dog was suddenly much more present, checking in more often, lying closer, refusing to leave the room, now you understand why. They perceived a shift in your baseline, and they responded to it. This is quiet protection. It's not dramatic. There's no bark, no posture, no physical placement. It's just your dog making sure you still exist, making sure you're still okay. And the final sign? It's the one that ties every single one of these behaviors together. It's the one that might actually bring you to a full stop, because it explains something most dog owners have felt but never quite put into words. Sign 07. They mirror your emotional state and then try to regulate it. Here's something almost nobody talks about when we discuss dog protection behavior, because we tend to think of protection as physical, standing in front of you, barking at a threat, being big and brave. But there's another layer entirely, and it might be the deepest one. Your dog reads your emotional state in real time, and when your emotional state becomes distressed, anxious, sad, overwhelmed, afraid, your dog doesn't just notice. They respond. And that response is a form of protection. Scientists have confirmed that dogs can detect biochemical changes in human emotional states through scent. When stress hormones like cortisol rise in your bloodstream, they create a detectable scent signature that your dog picks up on before you've said a word, before you've even fully registered the feeling yourself. And then something remarkable happens. They move toward you. They don't back away. They don't ignore it. They come closer. This is counterintuitive in the animal world. Most animals respond to stress signals by distancing. The signal says danger, so they retreat. But dogs have evolved to do the opposite with the humans they're bonded to. Your distress is their cue to engage, not to flee. The nuzzle when you're overwhelmed. The paw placed gently on your knee. The refusal to leave the room when you're upset. The way they press their head against you when you're crying. When you haven't made a sound. None of this is coincidence. None of this is just being sweet. It's a deeply instinctive protective mechanism aimed not at a physical threat, but at an emotional one. And if you think about it, that's the highest form of protection there is. Anyone can stand between you and a stranger, but being calibrated to your inner world, sensing your fear before you've spoken it, responding to your pain before you've named it, that's something different. That's something most humans struggle to do for each other. Your dog is doing it constantly, quietly, without being asked. So here's the full picture. Every single one of these 7 behaviors, the pre-knock alert, the strategic sleeping position, the environmental scan, the low warning growl, the physical positioning, the welfare checks, and the emotional attunement. They're not separate quirks. They're one unified system, a protection system that your dog has been running, without a manual, without training, without reward, for as long as they've been with you. They don't protect you because they were told to. They protect you because to them, you are everything worth protecting. And once you see that, once you really sit with that, the way you look at your dog will never be the same. So tell me, which of these 7 signs does your dog show most consistently? Or maybe they have their own version, something they do that I didn't mention here. I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments. Your dog's story might be the one that helps someone else see their dog in a completely new light. If this video moved you even a little, share it with someone who loves their dog. And if you want to keep going deeper into what makes dogs so extraordinary, subscribe, because we're just getting started. Give your dog a scratch behind the ears today. They've more than earned it.